those little items, I don't care if it's $1,000, $2,000, whatever, that is not going to make a difference in your life. Having the right strategy by connecting you with a financial planner, by connecting you with a tax strategist that's going to maximize how much you save, it's got nothing to do with the cost.
Welcome to the Evolve Your Brand podcast. I'm your host, Aaliyah Merkees. And as always, just want to give a huge shout out to Icon Industries. Our show is owned and produced, and we couldn't do it without Shane, Steven, and all the wonderful people at Icon. Today, I am so excited. I have someone that's actually in the same industry I'm in. I've gotten to know Brandon Goldberg. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. He works at the Loan Depot. We're not going to hold that against him. I'm just totally kidding. He's phenomenal. And what I refer to Brandon as a mortgage advisor, he's very much like myself, people-oriented. Brandon, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, I can't thank you enough for having me. I'm excited.
Oh, absolutely. We're going to have so much fun. And this guy has the best smile in the business. Brandon, how did you end up? We were just talking offline. You said you're originally from New York. Kind of give us your story. Like, how'd you end up in beautiful, sunny San Diego?
Yeah. So, I mean, big picture, when I was a baby, I was born in Brooklyn, New York. It wasn't a real good neighborhood. I guess my mom wasn't worried about my brother, but me, like, immediately moved us out of here, took us to, I would call it Marshmallow Town, like just the most opposite of Brooklyn, New York. And I grew up in Orange County. And then most recently that brought me to San Diego. I was actually living in San Francisco. I went back to get my degree right before I turned 30. I felt like I was running out of years where it was appropriate to be a student. So I went back to San Francisco State. COVID happened. I could finish my class online. I was there for my 1 year, and that was my like big chance to get to San Diego. I've been wanting to live here for probably 10 years.
Really?
Yeah,
congratulations.
Yeah.
Congratulations. So you leveraged COVID into graduating.
Yeah. COVID. I got a COVID degree.
Hey man, get it. You were productive. What was the one thing you enjoyed about the Bay Area?
So much that I loved about the Bay Area.
Nice.
Mostly super commuter friendly for people that don't drive a car, you know? So yeah. But also, I mean, the people are different. Like people really do not care. They're there, like they're who they are all the time. They dress how they want. They don't care about public opinion, I feel like. And that's obviously a hasty over generalization, but I would say like speaks pretty good to the people of the Bay.
Okay. What was the one thing you were glad to get away from?
That's a really hard question. I don't know. I loved San Francisco. It was always something that was temporary. I think one thing actually for sure, this was like a weird change in my life. When I was there, I lived with a group of people. So there was like 5 or 6 of us in a house. And so I was excited to get back to my own space.
And you live in beautiful downtown San Diego.
Right.
How long have you lived in downtown?
Like a little over 2 years.
Do you love it?
I still love it. Yeah.
You still love it. Okay. Are you getting towards the tail end?
There's some days that I'm like, how long am I going to live here for? But most of the days are good.
What was it about San Diego that you loved? That you said 10 years you wanted to get down here, right?
Yeah. All my like best friends went to San Diego State. Oh. And so like half of them moved. Half of them were from the Bay originally, and half were from here. And then some moved back home, some moved to the Bay. So it was like I got to go see half my friends for like a year, but all my closest friends have always been in San Diego. So it's all about people, you know, being close to my friends.
Brandon, it's the funniest thing, man. Some of my closest friends when I went to San Diego State were from the Bay Area. It's like transplant. Like
yep.
There were so many people, and then the San Diego people would go up to the Bay. I'm like, okay, this is like,
yeah.
I don't want to leave the state, want to stay here, but I'm going to go to the Bay. Completely different environment. What's the one thing that you really, really just can't get enough of when it comes to San Diego?
There's never there's always something to do. You're never bored. You're never like stuck at home, like just staring at the TV or something. If you want to do something, you can do it, and it's probably going to be fun. Like I've done silly stuff, touristy stuff. I've done all kinds of things, but I'm never bored here. That's for sure. And it's a good place to live. I mean, weather, obviously.
Yeah. And I think that's what a lot of people realized, like during COVID was, I think LA and San Francisco, the Bay Area, they all figured out like how incredible San Diego is.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, people bounced quick when they found out they could work from anywhere. And most people were like, oh, can I work from San Diego?
Yeah. It's not a bad place to work, right?
Yeah. Yeah. There was a huge, I mean, I went, it's not like a mass exodus or anything, but there was a pretty big exit from San Francisco. Like I know a ton of people that moved to San Diego in that same kind of time frame. COVID changed the world, that's for sure.
Ditto, man. And that's what's funny. I mean, that definitely did impact our home prices in San Diego
big time
with all that money coming down. When Brooklyn, like when did you leave Brooklyn?
I was an infant.
Oh, okay.
As soon as I
so
could
you
breathe.
grew up in Orange County.
Oh,
so
yeah.
you've been in California since when?
My whole life.
Your whole life. So you're pretty much a native now.
I never tell people I'm from Brooklyn. I will tell people I was born in New York, but I grew up in Orange County. So
I mean, that was cool that you were born in New York. I'm like, oh, okay. All right. Eric Braun. I get it. That's actually funny. I've never been to New York, man. I got to go.
Oh yeah.
How many times do you have family there?
I've been a ton of times, but it's a much better place to visit than to live, in my opinion. New York's a hard place to live.
I just want to go visit, and that's about it. I don't think I can. It's too fast paced for me. LA, I just can't handle that.
Yeah, too many people. There's a lot of. I mean, for me personally, yeah, I'll take San Diego.
San Diego. So I think we're San Diego lifers. We've decided that. So we are the poster child for San Diego. What did you enjoy about growing up in California?
I don't know any different. So, I mean, obviously I grew up we weren't wealthy, but I grew up, I never was missing something in my life. If I needed something, I always had it. If my shoes were worn out, like I could get new shoes. I had a bike, and I always had whatever I needed. And, I mean, growing up here, part of it is probably my mom had a deli. She just sold it after like 30 years. Yeah. And so that was in Laguna Hills. And so I kind of grew up in that deli a little bit. Yeah. So, I mean, there's nothing not to like. That's for sure.
I know. What kind of, was it a franchise deli?
No, it was a New York deli called the Kosher Bite.
Yeah. Okay. What was the best dish there?
Pastrami sandwich, probably with coleslaw.
Okay, we're gonna have to. That's my weakness. Pastrami sandwich. Come on, man.
Yeah, doesn't get better.
It's amazing. How long did your mom own it?
30 years.
Wow.
30 years. Yeah.
Is she glad to retire?
Owned and operated it. I think she is and she isn't, because all her best friends, she saw her customers that would come see her every week. Some people came there every day, so there's people who know her whole life. She knows their whole life. So I think that's tough, but she's physically worked herself to death, so she's really earned it. And she worked on a torn meniscus for like 2 years. Like she could use a break.
Your mom's a champ.
Oh, she's the best. She's an animal.
What's the best attribute that you took away from your mom?
Perseverance, probably. That you cannot quit. You cannot quit. You just got to keep doing everything that you can. And if something happens, then great. And if it doesn't, then you got to keep trying. And she taught me so many good things growing up, and just like a lot of the things that you talk about, which actually is the reason that it makes me happy for you to say, oh, you're a genuine person, whatever. It's like, okay, well, that's how my mom raised me. And so that means a lot to me. And I hope that people think I'm like her.
That's it's amazing. You were talking about like her clients and her customers. She gets to see them, and you have that same exact attribute. You genuinely care about people. It's funny how much we get influenced by our parents.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, undoubtedly.
Yeah, because I got kids, man, and I'm like, oh man, they watch everything. It's crazy.
That's a good thing, though. You want to be like you, and it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, as long as you're right. You want entrepreneur-wise, like, what was the one skill you've learned that you apply in your business from your mom when it comes to entrepreneurship? She owned her own business for 30 years. That's not easy in in California, especially in the restaurant industry. Holy cow.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. The number one thing I think I took away from my mom is that, at work-wise anyways, is that she, number one, always showed up. It was her and one other employee. There was no sick days. They worked 6 days a week, 70, 80 hours a week, and they would just show up every day and do what they had to do. You know, there's days that you don't feel like it. She went through a lot of stuff health-wise and whatever, and she still showed up every single day. And just, I think, showing up and caring about what she does. You know, she's not the type of person that like going to throw together a platter and send it out to somebody. Like, it's going to be perfect. It's going to be as perfect as possible, because she cares that the people, when they get it, that it's like, wow, look how beautiful this platter is. Or, you know, like that she took a lot of pride in what she did. And I think that's probably stuck with me the most.
Wow. She had high standards.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And that's how you stay in business for 30 years, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know how she did it, honestly. It's so tough. And, you know, you hear about small businesses and restaurants and stuff failing all the time. And she just, that's what it was. You know, she built a name for herself.
Yeah.
She built a name for herself, and people came to see her. So
that's incredible. Like, good for your mom. That's, congratulations on her retirement. Yeah. Now you just got to keep her busy.
I'm trying to get her into doing more stuff. Yeah.
How did you get into lending?
So that's actually my father. My dad did home loans. I don't know did I tell you this story or not?
No.
Oh, so, okay. That's funny. So I worked retail for a long time. I was working at Toys R Us and Babies R Us for a long time. I was training, managers and all this sort of thing. And then one day I said, hey, when am I going to be the manager? You got me training all these managers. And he said, well, we can't take you off the floor. It'd be like losing 3 people. And I said, okay, I got to find a job. So I was out.
You worked at Toys R Us?
Yeah. Toys R Us and Babies R Us. Awesome. Yeah. Even when I got into mortgage, I still worked there on the weekends. So I worked there technically for like 8 years, because I worked 7 days a week. And on the weekends, I would just work there. But then, so my dad offered me a job. I said, well, man, I'd rather die. And he's like, okay. You know, and then I went to work at like Wells Fargo, you know, and that was probably the worst job I ever had. I was a personal banker. I made it 1 quarter before I was like, I can't deal with these sales tactics and stuff. I got to get out of here.
Oh, got it.
And then I was like, hey, is the offer still there for, you know, to work with you? And that's how I got into home loans.
What did Dad say?
It's like, sure, come on down.
Okay, well that was cool. Like,
yeah.
How long has your dad been in the business?
Probably like 25 years.
What's the number one lesson he taught you about helping people?
I think that, I mean, that's probably just like a family thing in general.
It okay.
As far as like, do what you say you're going to do. If you say you're going to do something, do it. And if you're not going to do it, you like, if for some reason comes up that you can't, you need to communicate that right away to somebody. You can't leave people in the dark.
That's a great piece of advice in our industry.
Yeah, you hear it all the time. You know, oh, can't find this guy. Can't get a hold of this guy.
It's interesting.
You can make a mistake and keep your reputation if you do it the right way. Hey, take ownership. I made this mistake. We're in this situation now. Here are our options. Then, you know, mistakes happen, and that it shouldn't happen a lot, but it's definitely possible to do it. But if you're just going to run from it, dude, good luck.
Yeah. I think, I don't know what your opinion is. I think there's 2 kinds of mistakes that I see a lot in real estate, are the careless ones. And then you have the like legit, just part of real estate, you know, because what are your thoughts? Like when you talk to like families and investors, like how do you set realistic expectations when it comes to real estate?
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, the main thing is like, I'm a big proponent of people, hey, speak with an expert. If you want to talk about home loans and structuring that, strategizing, all that sort of thing, I'm happy to. Financial planning, you know, a lot of people say, oh, we help build generational wealth. Well, first and foremost, they've got to buy their first house and they've got to know what they're getting into. So as far as expectations go, I mean, off the initial conversation with them, I'm going to tell them what to expect. But then they're also like, once they're pre-approved, right, and we have all the parameters of their file and we know what they can and can't do, then I'm going to give them a full presentation where they're going to see a comparison of, the max purchase price they qualify for, the target price that they're aiming to buy, and then I'll work backwards to show them what their target monthly payment will be, and that's going to have a complete breakdown of the monthly payment and also approximate closing costs, so that people really know what they're getting into from the jump. And I think that setting expectations is probably the most important thing to do.
And all that is based on what their goals are, which, and anytime we've spoken, it's always about like what their needs are. And that's what makes it great. That's what makes a great experience, because all of us sell the same loans.
Yeah.
Like my VA loan isn't any different than your VA loan.
Right.
So it's like ultimately, so we hear this a lot. How do you address what's your interest rate?
That's a great question, because it's probably the most common question that people ask, right? If you go on Google and you search how to get a mortgage, it's going to tell you to call a bunch of lenders and get rate quotes. So the number one thing that I do is ask them if they're familiar with how interest rates work. Almost always, when you say, hey, tell me what you understand about interest rates. And they'll say, well, I know it impacts my monthly payment and that's about it. Okay. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is educate you on how the entire mortgage industry as a whole works, as well as interest rate shopping. And then, so what I'm going to do is give them a video. So now I'm educating them. They understand how it works and what the differences are between different kinds of lenders and that sort of thing. And in that same, in that same link is also a list of 8 questions to ask lenders as you shop around. And, from there, I'm happy to, I'll tell them, I don't want you to get a bad deal. I'm not telling you to take a higher rate to work with me. I'm happy to look at any competitor quotes. But unfortunately, in our industry, I would say advertised and quoted rates are misleading at best and confusing at best and misleading at worst.
Right.
So at the very least, if you're going to shop around, just get a fee worksheet or a loan estimate so that we can see what you're getting and what you're actually paying to get it. And then you can make an educated decision on what you want to do.
And that's, I think, if I had to give you feedback, that's what differentiates you from probably 90% of our industry, is that you're more concerned about the education part and making sure that they know what questions to ask.
Yeah. I mean, a big part of it, if somebody's quoting you a rate, but they don't know how interest rates work or what to expect in the coming days for interest rates, what they said doesn't really matter, because hey, they could give you bad advice on locking or floating your rate. You might make there's a million things that go into it. And, at the end of the day, this is a huge life event. You want to work with somebody that's going to educate you so that you can make an educated. At the end of the day, neither you or me is going to say, hey, do this way and like tell people how to do something, right?
Absolutely not.
All that we can do is tell them as much as we can, teach them as much as they can so that they can make an educated decision. And you hope that beyond 1/8% or 1/4%, they value the time and attention to detail that you took to educate them on those topics and prepare them. And, if I lose a deal to rate, I lose a deal to rate. But as far as that question, I pretty much am anticipating that being the number one question. So usually in the initial intake call, there's a section where I get to it and I say, when I talk to most people and ask them what's most important to them about getting a mortgage, most people say interest rate.
Yep.
I'm going to provide you in the follow-up email that I send you when we're off the phone. There's going to be a video that explains how the mortgage industry as a whole and interest rate shopping works, so that I'm approaching the interest rate conversation before they're bringing it up. And don't get me wrong, are there people where, the first question in the intake call is like, okay, before we get started, what questions do you have for me? And a lot of them are like, what's the interest rate? Okay, no worries. I'm going to get to that in just a second.
Yeah. Well, Brandon, I'm also, it's funny to me when I work open houses and people will ask what are interest rates? I'm like, if I could answer that question for you, how much would you trust me when I don't know your financial portfolio? I have no idea about your credit scores, where your assets are at. How much credibility would I have if I answered that question?
It's a great question, because if there's 30 loan level pricing adjustments and they ask you what the rate is and you say 7 1/8, How? For what type of loan? For what down payment? For what credit score? For what property type? Is it a condo? Is it a townhome? There's so much that goes into determining what interest rates are. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people in our business that will just tell them, hey, what's the rate? And then they'll give them a number that they think they want to hear and hope that it's there when it comes time to lock. That's what it is.
And I think that it's like you have to be careful right now. When I think about it, affordability is a huge issue for families. And I think, quoting accurate pricing, I quote 1/8 above where I'm at because we're in a volatile market. How do you set up, your families and investors for the best experience? Like, what are some things that you do to make sure they have a great experience?
Yeah. So, it's all about options. So when I go through that pre-approval presentation, a lot of times it's not just, those three things in terms of max qualification, max purchase price they're looking for, and the monthly payment they're targeting. It's other things. If we're showing temporary buy downs or permanent buy downs when it comes time to lock their rate. The main thing is when you do that initial presentation is that they're going to be comfortable with the payment. That's most important. And if they're comfortable with the payment, then when it comes time to lock their rate, and I'm providing them with literally the par rate that's available, all the lower interest rates that come with that, the cost associated with each rate, that's the discount points expressed as a dollar amount. And then I show you, this is how much you're saving this is the monthly payment for each one. This is how much you're saving versus the par rate. And this is how many payments you have to make to recuperate your investment. People can make an educated decision, And so it's all providing people with options, educating them on all the different things. Hey, look, a lot of people will go out, they could even be the perfect borrower. They could be the perfect borrower. And they're doing 20% down, this, whatever. Okay, well, have we looked at a strategy where you keep more money in your pocket? Talk to people. It's all like a lot of what you're doing as far as putting things in front of people is to start conversation. Like, oh, I didn't know about temporary buy downs. Can you tell me more about that? Sure. This is how it works. And, if they're looking to buy down their rate and they understand, okay, I have to make 40 payments, but their plans to refinance in 2 years, then, hey, don't buy down the rate,
It's interesting that you walk through all those options, and there's a difference between someone that does your loan and gives you mortgage advice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Big difference.
Yeah. So a very long time ago, that's how I used to quote rates. When it was time to lock people's rate, I would say, here's the par rate, or if you want to buy down the rate, 0.1%, I would give them the cost for that, and that's it. But if I'm not having the conversation and I don't know what's important to them or what their target is, how long they're planning to be in the house for before they refinance or sell, and all that other stuff, you can't give advice. And most people aren't even trying.
Right.
Most people aren't even trying. It's just like, oh, I'm just trying to be the lowest rate out there and hope that I win this deal. And it's unfortunate for consumers, really, because it's harmful. I think for every article that's out there that says how to get a mortgage is to go online and shop around for rate, it should be flagged like with, this is incomplete information. This is what else is important.
Brandon, if you weren't in our industry, do you think you would be able to go and find a mortgage solution on your own on the internet? Do you think it's practical?
If I was not in the business, I think I could probably get a loan online. Would it be the best program for me? Would have the right strategy based on what I'm trying to do? Probably not.
Okay.
I would probably, because I would just go online like it says on the first 6 pages of Google and find the lowest rate and go with them, because we've been commoditized. I wrote a whole article on LinkedIn about the commoditization of real estate. And that's not just loan officers, that's real estate agents as well. And it's going to get worse now that this whole thing's coming out where buyers agents aren't paid by the seller. That's only going to get worse. So realistically, if somebody thinks a loan officer is a loan officer and a home loan's a home loan, they qualify or they don't, that's that, and just get the lowest rate. And that's what society's educated you to do. How would you know any different?
Yeah. One of the fascinating things is I think we've trained consumers to just look at cost.
Yeah.
And in real estate, that's a very dangerous one item to look at, just cost, because cost doesn't tell you the whole story, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, anytime that people kind of get into battles over LEs, like, oh, they didn't tell you they're charging you this here, whatever. It's like, those little items, I don't care if it's $1,000, $2,000, whatever, that is not going to make a difference in your life. Having the right strategy, working with someone who's going to connect you with people that, and I steal this from Wally Ellerberry, is going to help you win the game of wealth by connecting you with a financial planner, by connecting you with a tax strategist that's going to maximize your, you know, how much you save. It's got nothing to do with the cost.
Right.
You know, and even that, you know, cost is a word that I used to turn to in sales, right? Oh, you know the price, you know the price of everything, but the value of nothing, right? The actual cost of, you know, trifold paper towels, I can tell you because I sold sanitary supplies for a minute. Those are the most expensive towels to buy. They're the cheapest price, but the highest cost because people pull out 25 of them at once, right? So looking at costs and even looking at interest rate is a terrible way to make a comparison. You know, I don't, and it's unfortunate because people are trained to do that. And we do, I mean, obviously it costs money.
Yeah.
It costs money. So you got to do what makes financial sense.
Absolutely. And I would say for, you know, one of the things I've thought about is how do I simplify the explanation? So if I wasn't in real estate, it could connect and resonate with people. And I think real estate is one of those areas where if you look for the lowest cost solution, the price that you're end up paying is going to be significantly higher from an experience perspective.
Hey, if you buy everything, everything that you buy at Target and Amazon, you could get on Shein and Alibaba for half the price. Why don't you do it? Because it's garbage. There's no difference. When you buy gas, when you need gas in your car, and this gas station's 10 cents higher and this is 10 cents lower, but you go here because you trust Chevron, there's no difference.
That was so eloquent, what you just said, because it just made me think how the right way, in my opinion, how to shop for real estate is based on service.
Totally.
Based on service. Because it really is. I mean, houses are houses, and every family is going to find the right house for them. Hopefully, when inventory comes available one day in the near future, when the inventory gods open up and houses fall in California. How is it working with your dad?
It's good. It's good. I mean, we've worked together for so long that it's like.
How many years have you worked together?
So I started in 2009.
Oh, did you? You've been in lending since 2009?
Yeah.
Get out.
I mean, I had some breaks where I went and did sales for certain other things, but you never, if you're really in mortgages, if you really do home loans, you never leave. You're still listening to the news every day. You're still looking at every house that pops up around you. And, you know, you still speak the lingo and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I mean, we've worked together for a really long time and we're opposite people. We're completely opposite people. So it works really well because there's times when, you know, like we've talked about this before, right? I totally understand if people want to work with you because they've got a personality that matches yours and not mine. What I'm lucky with is that somebody that just hates me for, I don't know, God knows why. I don't know. They just like they don't want to work with me or they don't like the way I word things or whatever.
Right.
I can say, hey, Erwin, can you reach out to this person? Because they're not getting it when I say it, it's not coming across the right way. And then he can do that and vice versa. If he's trying to, you know, get somebody to sign disclosures and he's like, hey, they're not signing disclosures. I'm like, oh, really? I text them all the time. I could just shoot them a text and I'll do it right now.
Teamwork.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so I'm hoping one of my boys decides going to lending or real estate. It would just be fun.
Yeah.
So for you to have legacy in it, I just think it's cool when you told me that your dad's been in the business. I didn't know you started in 2009 though.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Is there a funny story you remember about that year? Do you remember your first transaction?
I just remember not knowing what the hell I was doing. I was just like, and I literally, so while I was working at Toys R Us and Babies R Us, when I would get off work, I would go to his office and I wasn't paid. But I didn't want to just get a job from my dad and get, you know, now I've got a job or whatever. I wanted to earn it. So before getting a job, I needed to have some experience. So I went to his office and I would literally sit behind him probably for like 6 months, maybe 8 months, that I would just sit behind him. I would say, I guess 3 months, I sat behind him, watch everything he does. Then for 3 months, I sat in the computer chair, and I don't care if it was typing an email. He would say, "Good morning, Brenda." And I would type out the whole email, and I learned slowly but surely. And when I felt like I knew enough, that was when I got into the business, and I was doing like essentially cold calling and just trying to drum up business and stuff. And it was brutal.
Oh, and the smile. You remember those calls.
Yeah.
I love being rejected. It's amazing. I love this.
Yeah.
The good old day. I enjoy being on the phones.
Do you?
Well, I enjoy the people aspect of it. What do you love about real estate?
There's so many things that I love about real estate. Number one is there's a lot of creativity in our business.
Ooh.
You know, there's a lot of creativity. How you can differentiate yourself is all up to you. You know, regardless, some people win by being the lowest guy. Like they're known as the cheap rate guy.
Yeah.
Hey, that's their own differentiation that they chose. They're going to go down that path. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't see anything wrong with that. But there's a million different ways to do it. You get to choose how to do it. You get to provide for other people's families when you grow a team. You know, when we were really cranking, we had 8 or 9 people with us. That was awesome to know that we're paying people's bills.
Yeah.
You know, like literally seeing people buy new cars, buy houses that were working with us. And it was all because of, you know, the production we're doing. That is super gratifying. Super gratifying.
Yeah. What's the one thing that you think most people aren't aware of about the real estate industry that's important in San Diego?
For realtors?
No, for people that want to buy in San Diego, what's one thing that you think most people aren't aware of about San Diego real estate?
That's not as cut and dry as you think. Every deal is different. Every house is different. The challenges are different for, you know, different things, whether it's a high-rise community, you got condos in litigation or whatever. It's never just a purchase price. Like there's so many people, I mean, even when you first go shopping, they're just looking at purchase prices. It's like, okay, did you realize that place has a $1,400 a month HOA? You know, it kind of changes your budget. So I think it's just generally there's less education than there should be. People people don't speak the language of real estate. And so, I think it's kind of just like if they have a trusted resource, whether it's a realtor or, you know, a lender that can really guide them through, then they're going to know everything they need to know.
Right. Would you hire a mortgage advisor first or a realtor?
I think pretty much everybody knows the realtor that they're going to use. I feel like almost everybody knows the realtor they're going to use ahead of time. I think it's most important, if any, not necessarily to hire somebody, but you want to speak with a lender first, just so that, because it's never too early to start. With a lender, if you don't qualify today, that's no problem. That's no problem. Let's put together a plan. What do you want to qualify for? What has to change between this time? I've helped guide people through job changes, like navigating the job market. You know what I mean? Like, so once you're in that position and you've seen the numbers and you're comfortable with that payment, now I would say is somewhat of the easier part. You're going to find the property that all this makes happen, you know, and not to say that what realtors do is easy. I'm not saying that by any means, but I think that you've done most of the grunt work when you're done speaking with the lender.
I 100% agree with what you say, because what I realize that a lot of my families have to just walk them through is the relationship between the real estate agent and the mortgage advisor. That when their communication and cohesion and they're aligned with one goal, who benefits the most in your opinion? When your agent and your mortgage advisor are on the same page and they're working together as a team, who benefits the most?
I mean, the client.
Right?
The client.
Right.
And there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And don't get me wrong, it's way better for both the realtor and the lender because when you're working with somebody that you know and you know how they communicate, then it makes your life easier too. But yeah, your life. But that's one thing that I would say. You asked earlier, what do people not know? I think people really, it's out there that buying a home is complicated. Buying a home is stressful. When you work with professionals who do this on a daily basis, that's not the case, because they'll walk you through every step of the way. There's nothing to be confused about, because if you have a question, just ask it. And if they don't have the answer, they better go get it. Like,
and it's okay. Like, Brandon, I've learned this, and I'll be very vulnerable. I don't have every answer in real estate. It's impossible.
Yeah, things changed now. We just missed the change.
Yeah. Oh, well, rates went up. Rates went up another quarter while we've been on the podcast. I hate to break it to you. I hope you have your loans locked in. Totally kidding. Totally kidding. Wow. That is the one surprising when you brought that up, the dynamic between real estate agents and mortgage advisors. I've found, like, I love when you work with sellers agents and buyers agents and mortgage advisors that all work together, even when you're being cross-qualified. It's about helping the seller family and the buying family have the best experience.
Yeah, it's really funny that you bring that up, because cross-quals are something that people like don't really talk about that much. But
why don't you educate what that is?
Yeah, so I mean, essentially, like, if you're a listing agent and you're fielding offers for your clients, you want to vet that the financing is going to go through, because there's a lot of people that don't know what they're doing. So if they have a lender that they trust, they can basically go over all the numbers, make sure that everything's good. They've got a DU approval, that sort of thing. But also, it's the little things. Hey, when you ran these numbers and you got this DU approval, what tax rate did you use? What HOA did you use? Make sure that it's all good. So basically, that clears your name. But what I think is weird is that I've had people call me like, hey, they said I've got to get cross-qualified with you. And they've got an attitude about it. And I'm like, I don't get paid on this either, man. Like, I don't want to do the cross-qual either. We're just making sure that you did a good job. If you did a good job, you got nothing to worry about. I get cross-qualled all the time. I'm like, hey, what do you need from me? You want the letter from the underwriter? You want the DU? Tell me anything you want off the 1003. I'll give you whatever you need. Because all they're doing as a lender who's doing the cross-qual is double checking work to make sure everything's all good. There's nothing. I'm not trying to steal your client. I'm not trying to do this loan at all. I'm trying to make sure a realtor that I have a relationship with doesn't get burned. That's it. And we should all know that, because we're in the same situation, vice versa. And we've talked about that before. There's lenders that will collaborate and talk about anything and are open books. And then there's the vast majority of the business that just thinks everybody's out to get them. And, like, hey, this person's going to steal my client. It's like, dude, if you did a good job, then first off, I'm not even talking to the client. I don't even have a chance to steal the business.
Right.
But I'll tell you what, if you want me to steal the client, I'll talk to him. I'm happy to see what I can do. Right. Like, that's not, it's not what it's about. It's not what it's about. Cross-quals are just protecting everybody. That's it.
Yeah. And here's the other side I like to educate buyers on is, understand the seller wants to close too.
Right.
This is good. You want to get cross-qualified. And if you were in their position, would you want, whoever's doing your financing to be in order?
Yeah.
It's actually a great exercise. I'm surprised it doesn't get done more.
Yeah. And it's not just protecting the seller. And I tell this a lot to people who are working with new construction, but it's no different with doing a cross-qual for an existing home that's for sale. It's not just protecting the seller. It's also protecting you from disappointment. Do you want to lose your earnest money deposit? Do you want to have moved out of your house only to find that you've got nowhere to live? You know how many calls I've had in my life where it's like, hey, these people are in the U-Haul out front and their loan's not closing. Can you help? I can't close it in a day. Those people's lives are. So had they gotten cross-qualified and I would have just said, hey, it doesn't work from the get-go.
Right.
They would have avoided that disappointment, and it's best for everybody. It's not just the seller. Yeah. So, and if you really don't qualify, I mean, hey, that's part of life. Maybe that house wasn't meant for you, and you're going to find the right house.
Wouldn't you say that, I think a lot of families also need to realize it's not, if you're in a position where you can't get pre-approved for what you want, it's not a bad thing at all. We're in a state that has some of the highest home prices, and then combine that with high interest rates. There's a lot of families that are in the same boat. So I just see people being overly critical instead of just saying, hey, buying a house requires a strategy, especially in California.
Yeah. And for those people, like you said, hey, they don't qualify. It's not, and that's one thing I think that upsets people is, hey, either, we can't get you to qualify, which I think is the worst thing somebody could say. But then it's like that you don't fit within the guidelines. That's not the answer. If somebody doesn't qualify, the answer is this is what would have to happen in order for you to qualify.
Bingo.
Is there someone that can help you co-sign? Because sometimes, you know how it is, right? Like sometimes people on paper don't qualify, but that's neither here nor there. You see the money coming into their account and going out of their account, and you see that they can afford the mortgage and they're comfortable with the payment. So it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It's just a matter of, restructuring it or figuring out what has to happen in the meantime so that when that next time you do find a house that you fall in love with, we get it.
Yeah. The other thing, and this is a little bit of a different podcast episode because we're more talking about like, how do you pick the right mortgage advisor? And I think there needs to be more content on there, more collaboration, more mortgage advisor going out there and saying, hey, the reality is your financing can pretty much make or break most deals.
Yeah. Well, the hope is that the referral partners we work with, whether that's their CPA, financial planner, insurance agent, their realtor, whoever that is, you would hope that they're saying, hey, who is it that you're working with? And kind of guide them to somebody that they know and trust will do a good job for them. But it's, I don't know what has to happen because I'm not exaggerating. It's like 6 pages and nobody goes past the second page on Google. Nobody goes past the second page on Google. And if you search how to get a mortgage, you will get at least 6 pages telling you to shop around for rate. So it's got to be somebody that educates you. Hey, look, I don't have a problem. If I give you a list of 8 questions, you go ask, I don't care, 10 lenders. That's 15. I don't care. If the answers that come from them make you feel more comfortable and confident that you're going to close your loan and close on time, then by all means, do what's best for you and your family.
Best advice I've heard. And most real estate professionals, real estate agents or mortgage advisors will have that attitude, which is, hey, if it's not a good fit for you, completely understand. The very best of luck for you. If there's anything I can answer for you, very receptive, very, very calm, very polite, just above and beyond for people. Because real estate professionals that believe in people, they don't care.
Yeah, and also
they're like, it's all good.
Also, like, here's the thing, right? I think realtors feel this pain a lot because I drove around, I showed this person 10 houses, and they decided to hold off. I don't get paid for any of that. It's a lot of free work. Lenders do a lot of free work too. We do a lot of free work. I call it free consulting sometimes when it's people who ask you a million questions and then they go with the lowest rate or whatever. Yeah. That does not matter to me because you still had that experience with me. So I'm hoping that you appreciate all the work that I did for free and in turn will refer me to your friends and family when it comes time to buy or sell, or at least leave a decent review and say, hey, I didn't do my loan with this guy, but he was super helpful. And if you're looking for someone that's going to educate you, these are the guys. Whatever. It's no big deal. You're not going to close every loan. Most people, if you've done this long enough, you don't want every loan.
I know, Brandon, I know I'm not a great fit for every single person.
You can't be.
Do you know what my advice is? My advice to any family is like, look, this is my standards on if I were in your shoes and I was looking for someone, real estate agent or mortgage advisor, do you trust them? Do they care about your goals? And are the options that they're giving you easily explained? And are they showing you what their options are? Yeah. Easy, done.
Simple enough. I never feel bad if I lose a loan to somebody that I know is going to take good care of them. I have no problem.
Say it again.
Yeah, I don't
Seriously.
mind losing. I literally do not mind losing. There's a few specific people out there that if they say, hey, we're going with this guy, I'm like, hey, I know they're going to do a really good job for you. They're going to stay in touch with you after they close. You're probably not going to get much different from me than you're going to get with them. I don't lose any sleep at night over that.
Well, and here's the thing of relationship. Real estate industry is a very small community. A lot of people know a lot of people. If I saw a offer coming in with one of the agents that I work with, and I know you're on the opposite end of it, when we talk, I know you've gone through your due diligence because of the meticulous attention that you have to detail. That, as a finance person, you got to have it. And it's just, we need to see more of it. So it's interesting that you bring that up because I agree with you. It's a relationship is everything here. Like I don't mind if I saw you and I'm like, Brandon's amazing. You made such a great decision because I know he cares.
Yeah. I have nothing. There's nothing wrong with that. And also, like, going back to the cross calls, it's way easier if you hit me up. You know, they're like, hey, can you call on this cross call? And I see the name on it. And I'm like, hey, it's good. You know what I mean?
That's it.
There was a realtor that kind of did that with me the other day. He's like, yeah, I was just calling you to let you know we accepted your offer. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And he's like, yeah, I know with you, it's good. And I feel like it's like that with some lenders. Don't get me wrong. Most loan officers, if I get a cross call, I'm asking a ton of questions.
Yeah. Because
that realtor trusted you. They trusted you with the client's earnest money deposit. They trusted you with their commission check. So I have an obligation to take the time. But if I know that you take the time to go line item by line item on bank statements to catch it if there's a big withdrawal every month, then I don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. So it's all trust. It's all where, you know, going back to Eric Gilman, how you do something is how you do everything, right?
Seriously. And having high standards like you do. So you're one of the people I would recommend as far as one of the three that I would interview when it came to, if you want a great person that's going to do it. And it's never about rate, in my opinion. Like, I know rates are ridiculous, but a mortgage advisor will save you more money in the long run than what you end up paying to make sure that they're successful. Because we're also entrepreneurs too. Like, a lot of the upfront costs. Now, you said we dedicate our time, right? And we don't charge for it. Well, actually, we do pay for it. Yeah. There's a huge cost for what we do. Mortgage advisors are not. Agents want to work with people like yourself because they know the kind of experience that they're going to get. So for you, every hour counts that much more because you are in demand because you know what you're doing. I think that's the part that, you know, we're not going to get replaced by Zillow. We're not going to get replaced by Redfin. Here's the problem that I think most people need to understand. Zillow doesn't care about your experience. They don't. Right. They care about selling things. And this isn't about Zillow. This is all companies. It's not a bad thing. Like, we're all for profit. But the beauty of entrepreneurs is I actually care about you. Right. I care about your family. I care about your experience 6 months from now. If you're in the loan for 2 years, what do you care about? Like, what the rate is year 10? So it's really, it's crazy to me how amazing our industry is when we do it right.
Yeah. And that's probably as good as you could say it.
Right? Brandon, where can, just drop, you're at Loan Depot, where can our audience follow you? We're going to put all your handles and everything. YouTube channel, you got your podcast. What's the name of your podcast?
We'll just call it Real Estate, but it's REEL. I'm always doing plays on words. Yeah. 4 Decisions, real estate. And then just, at Home Loan Surgeon on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. It's pretty much my professional page is kind of, I think I'd make it just for me. I'm like one of the 4 followers of it, but on my personal page, I'm friends with a lot of people, and I'd love to, it's all about connecting. I'd love to connect with people. There's people on my Facebook that I've never met in real life, and I've definitely reached out to them to say, hey, it's great seeing you and getting to know you a little bit online, but I'd like to meet you in person. So I think that's a good first step on just, getting to know people.
Seriously. And please follow Brandon. He puts out great content. He gives out great advice. He really, really does his homework. There's a reason why it's Home Loan Surgeon. And we'll definitely have him, I would love to have you back. This will be a part of what we do. We're going to have more people on here that do what we do for a living. So that way we can help educate.
Yeah.
I think that's really what you're passionate about is let's educate people on how to get the right financing for what they're looking for. Because at the end of the day, you can't commoditize someone that cares about your finances.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's like that. I don't remember who said this, but the cheapest financial advisor you can get is a mortgage consultant. Because you're basically an extension of a financial advisor and you help them build wealth. That's what they do. And that's what we do. So.
Absolutely. Brandon, thank you so much. If you enjoyed our show, if you got some value, please drop a comment. Follow Brandon Goldberg. We'll put all his handles. And if we brought you value, if you can please subscribe, share, comment. Thank you so much. And Brandon, we'll be seeing you soon.
Yeah.
Thank you, my man.
Thank you. Really appreciate you.
We're out.